And now, it's time for another Dice Tower review with the Game Boy Geek.
Hello my friends, it's the Game Boy Geek here. Today, we're going to be talking about a card drafting game where we're going to be trying to attack our opponents, heal up some health, get some magic cards, mess with our opponents, and try not to turn into a raven. We're talking about Nevermore here. It's an interesting drafting card game that has some suit actions that you're trying for. An interesting theme. It plays for 3 to 6 players, and the box says 45 to 60 minutes, and more comments on that later. So let's take a look. In Nevermore, it's a card drafting game where you'll be drafting for cards, trying to be a majority in a bunch of different suits to take suit actions, and at the end of the game, you're trying to be the first person to either get 6 of these victory points, or to be the last human player alive by depleting everybody else's health. Now the 5 different suits in the game are health, attack, victory points, radiance, and ravens, and as you can see, the artwork on these cards are just awesome. So every player is dealt 5 cards, at the beginning of the round. Now these cards are hidden from everybody. They're usually in your hand, but for the video's purposes, I'm showing them down here. I have 2 victory points, attack, and 2 ravens. Now the first thing you do is we're going to pass 3 cards to our neighbor. And to start the game, we can see we're passing him L to the left. Now the object is to have the most of a certain suit or suits by the end of the round. So I will pass these 3 cards. I'll tell you what all these do in a little bit here. So I'll pass these 3, and then I will gain 3. So let's say I gained these 3 cards back from the next player. Okay, now we pass 2. So the first time we passed 3, now we pass 2. And let's say I will pass these 2 to my neighbor, and then they will pass me 2. Ooh, good. And now we pass 1. So I will pass this one, and I will get, ooh, not bad, get this one. Okay, so now we all have 5 cards. That's the end of the round. Now we're going to go to the resolution phase. So now we start here. We say Conspiracy of Ravens. Does anybody have 5 ravens? Now the raven cards are a little different from the other suits. Typically they're bad, and I'll show you why they're bad in just a moment. But if for some reason you're getting a lot of ravens, which are bad, but if you get all 5 ravens, the round ends immediately. Everyone discards all their cards. You will get to deal 1 damage to every person. They lose 1 health, and you get a victory point. You also get to take one of these black magic cards, which are very powerful. I'll show you what these kind of do later. Now that doesn't happen too often, but it can happen maybe once a game or so if someone's really going for it. So now we go to attack. We know that attack's gonna be first, and we show everybody we're doing attack, and everyone is going to secretly put some cards face down, the ones that they're going to reveal. So maybe I'm holding 2 cards down, the other person's holding 1. Once everyone's done, we say reveal, and we reveal them. And I have 2 attack, they have 1 attack. You always take the person with the most of that suit minus the amount of cards that the second most person has. So it's 1. So it's 2 minus 1. I get to do 1 attack to any player. Every suit is going to resolve this way. Same way. The most minus the second most, and that's to the level they get to do that suit action. This suit action is they get to hurt somebody. So the person that I pick loses 1 of their health. We then go to hearts. This is for healing. This is to get health back. Now you might be wondering why you could just hold 1 card down and someone could see that you're holding 1 card down, and that might give things away. But the reason why we do that is because I told you these raven cards are bad. Maybe this player is going to go for victory points and maybe radiance, doesn't care about health right now. Whenever you have a raven card, every raven card you have has to kill off 1 other card during the reveal phase. So I know this card is going to cancel out 1 of these cards, and in my mind, I'm thinking I'm going to cancel out the heart this round. And so when it comes down time to claim for hearts, I'm going to hold these 2 down like this. Someone else might see that and think, okay, he's got 2 cards, maybe I'll put down 2. So this actually allows you to sort of bluff how many cards you're holding down. Because if the first person holds 3 cards down, you might think, well, if I have 1, I'm not going to, if I have many, I don't want to kill this with a raven because, I might easily be able to win this one. So you can hold down as many as you want, but when it comes time to flip, you only reveal the ones that are of that suit. And this kind of stops people from guessing and having a limited amount of information to figure out which ones the raven card is going to use. So at this point, we flip over the hearts. Okay, this player had 1. This player, the raven killed 1. So this player, that's the only heart there, So it's the most minus the second most, so it's just 1. This person would get 1 heart, assuming they don't already have 5 as the max. We'd go through the same way for Radiance. The Radiance person gets each a white magic card for however the level that he has won that at. And these cards do cool things. This thing can act like a victory point card in your hand. It could add to it at the beginning of the round. It's a magic card, but you could use it as a victory point card on any round. This one is play before the resolution phase begins and discard 1 Raven from your hand with effect, so it doesn't cancel out anything. Before the drafting phase begins, meaning right when you get cards, all players stop and do not draft. Maybe you got a really good starting hand and you don't want to draft and it screws everybody else up. Those are the types of rule breaking these cards do. And we go down to victory points. Again, the most minus the second most, and that's how many victory points you get. And you would get each one of these victory point cubes for that score. First one is 6 wins. Now, if you get to the end of your hand and you still have Ravens left, you get to do something now. And this can only happen as if at the beginning of the resolution phase, you usually have 5 cards. If the majority of them are Ravens, each one of those Ravens will kill off a card, and then you'll end up with Ravens at the end, because each one of these Ravens kills off a card, and if you had more than the majority, you'd have one of these. So for every one of these you have left over at the end of your hand, you get to take one of these black magic cards. And these are more powerful than the white magic cards. For example, play when an opponent is attacked for 2 or more damage. Instead of damage, their victory points are reduced by the same amount. Or play when resolution phase begins, no player may gain victory points this hand. Or play at the end of the resolution phase, sacrifice 1 victory point but deal 2 damage to an opponent. Place in your hand before the resolution phase begins, stealing 1 healing card from an opponent when they're revealed. So these allows you to really mess people over. Now that would be the end of the round. All the cards would get discarded and reshuffled. This would get flipped, so now we're passing to the right. These would actually, after the first round, they get shuffled and they get randomly placed out like this. So you can never tell what order they're in, and this really changes the game a lot because you might be not having a lot of health and you're going to spend some cards to attack, but you're not really sure if the attack's going to happen before the heal or after the heal. So you don't really know exactly what's going to happen. And then once everyone has gone through the drafting phase, remember you pass 3 to the right, then 2 to the right, then 1 to the right. When we start to resolve, we will then flip this over and things will get resolved in whatever order these come, one at a time. We resolve hearts, give hearts, we resolve victory points, give victory points, we resolve radiance, and then we resolve attack. And this changes every single round. So how do you get eliminated? I told you win by either 6 points or being the last person alive. So when you lose your last hit point, you are now turned into a Raven. You cannot win as a Raven. You're kind of out of the game, but you still play, and things get played much differently. So when you're playing this, you can still win and have the most of hearts, victory points, or attacking, but you don't take that action. Instead, you've stopped other people from taking it, and then you get to peck. As a Raven, you're pecking the person who had the second most. So if I had the most hearts, whoever had the second most, I may, if I want to, peck them, and they lose 1 victory point. And it stopped other people from getting it. Any of these 3. You could still be the most and get Radiance cards, though. Now, as a Raven, there is a way for you to come back and be a human. And when you do that, you get to keep the victory points that you had, and you start over, and you actually start with 4 health instead of 5. And this happens during this phase, the Skulking Ravens phase. If that round you have played either 5 identical cards of any suit, any of the 5 suits if you played all 5, or if you ended up playing 1 of each of the 5 suits. Either one of those times, and in that last phase, you'd become a human again, get 4 life, and you're back in the game with the amount of victory points you had. And so it keeps going until someone has 6 victory points, they're the last human standing, or in the rare circumstance that you are a Raven and if 2 people are tied for the second most in a category, like let's say hearts, I have the most, 2 people have the second most, you get to peck both of them. If they both only had 1 health left, they both die and you can actually win as a Raven. It's very rare, but it can possibly happen. All right, well, there's Nevermore. I gotta tell you that the idea and the artwork and the theme of these Ravens I think is a cool thing. There's an older game that I love that's not very well known called Pecking Order, and that's from an old Richard Garfield game. Doesn't get a lot of buzz, but it's a really good card game, and I love the theme of that because it doesn't get used too often. Killer birds and things like that. So I really like the theme of this Nevermore game. So what do I think about it? It's from Smirk Dagger, so you think there's going to be a lot of backstabbing and things like that. And some of that stuff does exist. I'll talk about more of that in a little bit. But overall, I think it's a very interesting and unique game. I like it. I typically like drafting, and after playing Diamonds last year, where you're trying to get the most of a suit, and you get to do these suit actions, and that kind of falls in place with here. And so overall, I really like the idea. Now, I think the biggest thing in this game that really turned it on to me was when you die, you don't just die, you become a raven, and you're not eliminated. There's really no player elimination here, and instead of that, the game completely changes how you play the game, and I think that's actually the best part about this game. If the game was just normal, and you're drafting cards, you're trying to get the suit actions, you're doing the suit actions, you're trying to get 6 points, or kill everybody else, I think it would have been a good game, but it would have stopped there. Being the raven, and it changes the way you play the game completely, trying to get back to being a human, or pecking the others down, is so fun and it's so interesting that I think that's what makes this game a very good game. I liked it a lot in that respect. Now, I can almost say that this game could almost be King of Tokyo, the card game. Now, bear with me here. I mean, instead of rolling dice, you're drafting cards. When you're done with your cards, you're either attacking somebody, you're healing, you're getting a magic card that allows you to do a special ability, and then you got these raven cards, which are like totally different. And you're trying to either have the most points or eliminate everybody. I mean, when you think of it mechanically, it's almost like King of Tokyo, the card game. And that's kind of how it felt, fun-wise, with having a completely different theme and having nothing to do with King of Tokyo. It doesn't play anything like it. But if I were to try to like put a little tagline on here, that's what I would put. It's a light game. It's pretty light. It's one of those games that you can just be drafting and talking. The strategy's pretty light. Okay, they have some points. We'll get to keep him from getting points. I want this. It's light. You can be talking and having a good time as you're playing this game. Conversation can be throughout as you're drafting and resolving and in between the hands. So it's a light, casual game, but it still has a decent enough thinking there where you're just trying to mess with other people and stuff like that. So it's light, it's fun, it does have some backstabbery in there. Not as much as some of those other games, but like, for example, I had one of those black magic cards, and it said, when somebody hits you, it's do 2 damage to them. And we got down and 3 of us tied with the same amount of attack, so we're all going to do it in order. It was going to be me first. So I looked, and these 2 made a deal. Hey, let's both hit me. And so I'm like, okay, I'm going to be turning into a raven here at the end of this round. So I hit the guy next to me knowing he would hit me back. When he hit me back, I played the magic card, which then did him 2 damage, and he only now had 1 left. So the girl went back on her deal and then killed him and made him the raven. And so that's some areas and ways that you still have some backstabbery here. Now, in the overview, I might have made it a little confusing about how you play down, and maybe there's some bluffing involved, and that might have felt a little intuitive, but don't worry about it. It's not a big deal during the game. It doesn't clog the game down, it doesn't slow down. In fact, most of the time you don't even have to do that. You can just put up the cards that you have and then flip. That's just literally to stop if somebody's constantly holding back, watching somebody do something, and then they pull back and then they go like this. And it's to keep the game moving and flowing. And we never had a problem with anybody doing that. So we actually didn't have to do the bluffing, but you can. And sometimes we did, sometimes we didn't. But it's not mandatory, and it's simple, and it doesn't clog it down. So if it looked a little weird back there and you didn't understand it, don't worry about it. It's not an issue with this game at all. Overall, it's a solid card game. It's good. I like the theme. I love the artwork and that twist. So if this sounds interesting to you, that's Nevermore.
Thanks so much for watching the Dice Tower videos. Find more great videos and reviews, as well as our top-rated audio podcast at Dicetower.com. You can also find other great shows at Dicetowernetwork.com. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower. The Dice Tower is sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc., where you can find great games for great prices. Cool stuff in stock. Check them out at CoolStuffInc.com.